Name's Andy Baber. I've been asked to come along and speak about some sustainability in practice activities. So just I'll introduce a little bit about myself. I'll take you through what I think is the best mindset in terms of unlocking sustainability in practice. I'll talk about battle for attention, try and understand how things are in harmony, how large language models and AI affect what we're trying to achieve here, my perspective from a private sector responsibilities in sustainability, what also I believe project managers' responsibilities is to be, methods to improve project performance across sustainable practices, sustainable projects in practice, and some environmental and health and safety related matters, considerations for next generation, and measures in sustainability in the project as well. So a little bit about me. My experience as a route into projects is quite a torrid one. I was called a veteran in terms of project management. So obviously 20 years plus makes me a veteran, which I'm quite proud of. I've worked through quite a few esteemed UK-based companies, but the roles I've fulfilled have been global. A lot of military, aerospace, aviation, oil and gas, and now power generation. I'm working for GE Vernova at the moment with a senior project management role in supporting the installation of substations here in the UK. So yeah, quite a varied and a wide reaching career across multiple sectors. So the introduction, so project delivery and empowerment of the future generations is kind of my theme. We really need to ask ourselves a couple of questions here. Is really sustainability a responsibility we lead on or a trend we follow? If sustainability isn't in the contract, is it really in the project? So these are two things that we keep being asked quite openly, because by inference, embarking on a sustainability piece within your project, it will take time, effort, cost, maybe impact the program. And is this something that you lead or you follow on? Now, from my perspective, it's something that we are responsible for. Therefore, I would prefer to lead on it, and that's been my approach to sustainability in my projects. Unfortunately, a lot of the projects I have been involved with, from the oil and gas perspective, they're quite old projects. So therefore, if it's not really mentioned in the contract, yes, we talk about waste management. Yes, we talk about efficiency and savings and all those sort of things, but it's not implicitly written into it like it would be now. So the Z clauses in NEC4 contracts, it's implicit in there. You have an obligation to apply sustainable practices. But even if it's not historically in there, it is in all our best interests as a project manager to realise this and make sure our projects are cognizant of the sustainability practices and requirements. So I call it this battle for attention. So at the moment, what I'm sensing is in the project world, there's a lot of focus on AI and large language models and all those sort of good things, which is brilliant, right? And that's where it should be. But also we need to understand how that can apply to practicing sustainability as well, and not ignore the two. So at the moment, I'm sensing from a lot of colleagues that I'm speaking to, a lot of higher education institutes that I'm speaking to, that some institutes are focusing on sustainability, some are focusing on AI, and they ignore the other one. What we should be doing is coming together and trying to understand that. So the battle for attention is what I'm trying to influence as a project manager. As I say, not only in my business and the industry I work in, but also across higher education institutes that I deal with. How the United Nations Sustainability Development Goals apply to that, and how we can use AI to augment those development goals. So more recently, I've been involved in infrastructure projects, as I say, working on substations here in the UK, applying NEC4 contract requirements. We've got the Z30 clause that requires us to be responsible and to apply corporate social responsibilities in that regard, and support frameworks and sustainability practices. So we have a responsibility anyway. It's just how we harmonise that. So in harmony, what I'd like to suggest is that as part of our project management skills, and this is an extract from the PMI 2023 project management skills that AI can't replace, versus how that embeds itself within the sustainability goals. Oh, sorry. Okay, that's it. Okay. So We need to comply with the various sustainability goals in projects. That becomes a key factor in project management. But how can them goals balance against what AI has given us in all to do with the problem solving elements of it, be a collaborative leader, strategic thinking, etc. That's exactly what we need to do as far as sustainability is concerned. We need to be those leaders. We need to be able to communicate. We need to solve the problems that sustainability gives us in a project that perhaps didn't embrace it in the first instance. So we need to work through with AI through effective prompting. We need to work with others, be collaborative. We need to lead on these sort of things as well. And in harmony, pull all the resources and assets together to ensure that any one of those 17 sustainability development goals are achievable and are reflected within our contract. The other piece that utilising AI and large language models is absolutely key. And it links really heavily into sustainability of practice as well. So sustainability to the right-hand side there is all about, CO2 emissions, commitments on carbon, all those sort of things. And if you think about it, managing a project, the amount of communications that you have crosses all those boundaries there. So the 4 bullet points you see above the top right picture there, in terms of the number of emails that are sent and the number of attachments we generally send on these. So we need as project managers to promote a better way of communicating across our projects, to really look at how that impacts on the sustainability element and what footprint we're giving. Also, for me, it's key that AI will never replace the project manager. However, the project manager will be replaced by a project manager more adept at AI and more adept at understanding what large language models can give to you. So the benefits for me is that if we use large language models, we use the various ChatGPT applications that you see on the left-hand side there, that can only benefit and support us in terms of understanding the data that's been presented as far as sustainability related data is concerned, and how we can make that change. Next one is to do with private sector companies' responsibility in being sustainable. So we know sustainability is often referred to as a concept or a living operation, so Earth's environment and the social capacity. But sustainability involves managing a wider range of non-financial related issues such as climate change, resource uses, biodiversity, inequalities, and human rights, etc. That's often something that certain industries, certain companies, certain political backgrounds struggle with. So through sustainability action plans, GE Vernova, where I work at the moment, we're looking at bringing together the tracks of all sustainable requirements and should be used to capture all opportunities to improve the project sustainability performance. So for us within GE Vernova and the energy transition, it goes past the framework and moves more into the clean renewable energy solutions that obviously have a positive impact on the carbon footprint. So, for example, we're actively replacing sulfur hexafluoride (SF6) in our solutions. And that will obviously reduce the tonnage of CO2 that's being produced. We're also looking at different ways of utilising the tarmac and laying that at different ambient conditions from a construction perspective. The use of vegetable oils, hydrated vegetable oils, rather than your normal fossil fuels. The reuse of topsoils that we use when we're doing construction. Also working with local organisations in and around the substation we work in, and reaching out on social events, reaching out to schools, charitable organisations, to make sure that we leave a legacy. We don't just come in, build a substation and leave. We leave a legacy. Also, we're finding these substations are not necessarily locations where there are heavy industries or there are educated individuals within the substation sector. So what we also need to do is bring in the local infrastructure, bring in the local community, and understand how we can, in 5 years' time, when we've walked away and the equipment's in service, how is it going to be serviced? How is it going to be supported? Is it something we can pull from the local community? That's really key for us to leave a platform. As far as project management responsibilities, you have the traditional project management iron triangle on the left-hand side, right? So any project manager, that's been in project management for a short or long period of time, understand that it's all about cost, time, quality, and scope. Yeah. Moving across, there should be a greater focus on the developing approach and looking at the carbon footprint, the circularity, resource efficiency, social value, etc. So that's another dynamic that we as project managers have to kind of be aware of and look at. But the challenge is how we integrate that in sustainability process in the project life cycle. So we're good at implementing quality systems, cost management systems, program development, improving time and cost, etc. But how do we embed the sustainability process in the life cycle of project management? So it's important for the project and the organization to ensure that the products, the outcomes and the benefits not only benefits the projects, but also benefits the life cycle of the sustainable life cycle. So all members of the project team have an influence on this. So we should really be asking ourselves some questions. Why are project managers in a strategic position to lead on this? We're expected to lead on the traditional side of things, so the time, cost, quality, and scope. So we also need to be leaders in terms of managing the social values and the carbon footprints, for example, the green diamond side of things. So for me, that's a step that perhaps current project managers do not necessarily have the skill set to cover. We need to obtain and identify and discover some practical tools, methods, including green project management, systems thinking, AI, like I've mentioned before. Augment that, bring that into the being more so to help us with that green diamond. Also benefits realizations. How do we understand that what we're doing will actually have a benefit moving forward? Will it deliver on what we said it was going to deliver in terms of the original business case of bringing in this sort of green diamond? We need to understand the tangible, the intangible benefits, the outcomes, and what impact that has on the community and the organizations around us. Next one is to do with ways to improve project management performance. So to further manage the project margin and on-time execution, so the iron triangle, as a PM, I'm always looking for ways to improve the project performance, either by improving the pace of delivery, what it costs us to develop that, delivering on time, so the program side of things, and how we ensure we keep the quality to the highest standard, so we can eliminate and minimize waste. So whilst over the years I've undertaken continuous improvement activities like risk optimization, risk and opportunity assessments within the project team, this has been done previously mentioned with performance objectives to focus on. So we use lessons learned quite frequently, return on experience, risk and opportunity reviews, 5 whys, SWOT assessments, Ishigawas, Kaizans. All these are great things if you're able to bring your team along with you. Other continuous improvement tools are available. However, continuous improvement piece is what we as project managers undertake since the outset of project management. It's how we apply these to embedding sustainability within our projects. We need to ask ourselves the question, why are we doing this? Maybe a SWOT assessment or even a TOES assessment. How can we identify what threats sustainability has on us, what strengths it gives to us, and ultimately what opportunities, and turn that negative into a positive? You can use the fishbone or the Ishigawa diagram to further establish how sustainability, the effect of sustainability will have from the methods, the machineries, the materials, etc. So there's many tools that we already apply as project managers, but we just need to think about how we can apply them to how we can embed sustainability in our projects. Sustainability in practice. So the sustainability management plan is ultimately where this stems from. So on the left-hand side there, you can see a typical standard sustainability management plan. We're all used to project management plans, stakeholder management plans, all those sort of good aspects of it. But what the sustainability management plan would do would identify and incorporate areas such as cultural evolution, obviously the decarbonisation piece, materials, waste, circular economies, environmental, social values, and resilience. These are the sort of things that you need within that sustainability management plan to give your client, your business, the assurance that you're doing the right thing. And it's also that it's meeting the business needs and also the 17 sustainability goal needs as well. So it all drives into that sustainability management plan for me. Environmental health and safety, that's really key as well. I think that's another area of from an environmental perspective. So whenever we're building something, whenever constructing something, whenever we're people are involved. We always consider safety management plans, health and safety management plans, and this is where the environment element of it comes in. Historically, it was all to do with the ISO 14001 and how, from an environmental perspective, but now we're looking at a bigger piece on that, bringing in the sustainability in projects. So again, we can look at this environmental safety management plan. We can look at it from a structured framework perspective, and we can look at how we can manage that differently through the tools as project managers already apply. So the environmental health and safety management plan includes, your security and travel, your environmental risks, your toolkits, your emergency responses, your lockouts, your PPE, working in extreme temperatures environments, etc. And that's all linked back into how we manage the sustainability impact on that project. The waste management within that EHS policy, how is that fitting in with what we do? Water course, water cycles, how does that impact on what we do? So as project managers, if you've got a project that requires a health and safety management plan, you will already have the toolkit and the wherewithal to understand how sustainability can impact on that as well. The next point I wanted to talk about was generations. So we can't do it alone. Okay, this is an obvious statement. So for me, this is a key area of how projects, and we develop the sustainability initiatives where focus is necessary from not only ourselves training from within, but also for me, higher education institutes. Yeah, we need to make sure that they're bringing to us, or they're training up the next generation of project managers with the right tools and right skill sets to be able to accommodate sustainability in projects. Now, I'm working across a lot of higher education sectors here in the UK, trying to emphasize that delivery. But as I say, all I keep getting is, well, we're only interested in AI because that's what everyone else is talking about. So maybe sustainability isn't as sexy as AI at the moment, but it needs to be. We need to be talking about it in that way. So we need for the Gen Zs and soon to be the Generation Alphas, who will be our the next generation of project managers, to have the toolkits available to them to walk straight into those roles and support and back up the commitments that we've made as project managers. Whereas the PM, we need to also understand and harness what the next generation wants and needs. So we need to be generationally aware, identify what impacts, both positive and negative, each generation has on a project and how we collaborate with them. Are there any such generational gaps? Often some lead to innovative change, some lead to not so innovative change. Some are resistant to change, some are less likely to want to change. So regardless of the generation, everyone's experience is unique. This, for me, uniqueness can bring different perspectives, innovative solutions to a team and collaboration in projects. There's never a dull moment for me in project management when I'm working with a wide breadth of generational inputs. Also, obviously, cultural differences as well. That brings in a massive step change in sort of how people look at problems, solve problems. And for me, that's what really encourages me. That's what keeps me going in terms of project management. I absolutely love the diversity of projects that I have the opportunity to work in. So, for example, Generation Alpha, these will be people that will be working with us in, I don't know, 5, maybe 10 years' time. They're hyperactive, they're impatient. They're the first generation, if you realise, that grew up with virtual reality. They don't necessarily have the same emotions that maybe a Gen X or a Gen Z would have. They have fewer real friends and they have online friends. So they maybe not want to sit in an office full of 20 people. They may be okay just sitting on a computer screens. And if you recall, these would be the COVID generation as well. So how will that affect their input to things? Will they be more risk averse? Will they be adaptable to change? Who knows? We just don't know. But these are the things that, as project managers working for looking at projects in a sustainable way, we need to embrace those generations. And who knows what generation beta is going to bring to the party? We don't know what the characteristics they're likely to be. That's evolving as we speak. But yeah, looking forward to working with those as necessary. Back to the sustainability management plan. It consists of, but it's not limited to, all those things you see there. Waste management, I think that's something that we're all aware of. Risk management, environmental impact, social impact, long-term viability, engagement of the stakeholders, which some would say, well, that's all part of your stakeholder management plan, right? Or your project management plan. No, for me, stakeholder management in a sustainability management plan context is key, because you can't do sustainability on your own. You can't just go out and apply the social and cultural impacts without the customer on board. Plus, also some of the sustainability pieces you're bringing in, such as the use of HVO fuels in let's say generators, that might ultimately cost you more. It might require greater maintenance, which might not have been built into the original contract, but it's the right thing to be doing. So you need to then build up a business case. There might be opportunities to upsell the opportunity with a contract variation or financial uplift, but ultimately you need to share that enhancement, not take it on board on yourself. There's elements of resilience and adaptability within this project management plan that you need. Resource efficiencies as well. There's ways that we can improve our resource efficiency, and that's potentially where the AI tools come in to help us with that. Cost benefit analysis, risk management. These are all things that we do anyway as project managers, but it's implicit within the sustainability management plan for that to continue, if anything, to improve. I sort of talked about risk management, resource management, materials. I mean, clearly, where we get the materials from, logistics side of bringing those materials in, the supply chain. Is a supply chain set up to supply that equipment on time? Do we need the equipment when we need it? Will it ultimately be supplied and then stuck in storage for an element of time? Is it required to be on the shelf? Is it required to be or have a warranty against it for 2 years or 5 years? You've got to look at the big picture in terms of what material you're using and whether it's the right material to use in the first instance. And reusing material that's already out. I've already mentioned about reuse of topsoil. Rather than send it to landfill because we don't need it, it should be used maybe in another application. So you need to look at the wider opportunities there. I think leadership, talked about before, that's really important. Engaging with and empower the team around you is not something that one project manager can do, right? You need the team around you to implement all these changes. Get them to understand, the time they're booking on this. Is it efficient? Get them to lead on some of the project management activities. Get them to stand up behind continuous improvement and identify ways we can eradicate cost inefficiencies. Let them bring them, harness their enthusiasm behind this. Certainly the generational input as well. And then also the well-being piece. That's really massive. I know companies have got a lot of ADI initiatives, but as a project, what are we doing as a project manager as far as promoting good health and well-being? I often take a good look at my project team and I inquire as to how you're getting on, what's your email inbox looking like if you've got days back-to-back meetings. That can't be good for individuals, right? And that's something you've got to be aware of as a project manager. And often as a project manager, the biggest skill you've got is the skill of listening, and having that empathy and understanding that good health and well-being might be that you're focused on getting that project delivered, right, in a timely manner. That might put extra burden and stress on people that perhaps aren't on the same page as you. So you need to be aware of that as a project manager. Else, one thing's going to happen, and it's not where you want to be. You want them working as optimal as they can on the tasks in hand. You don't want them failing. It's all about managing their well-being and being aware. And for me, it's about listening, but it's also about being available for them to speak to as well, with a bit of empathy. Final thing for me is all about how you measure the sustainability in a project, and it's quite simple. We've all used rags and red, amber, greens. How are you getting on with a good health and well-being approach to your sustainability plan? What's your actions? How are you going to implement that? Affordable, cleaner energy. What elements of that are you going to use? The HVO. I've already talked about HVO. Working economic growth. There's things there. Health and safety, well-being. How can you manage that? Is that going well? What's the target? Where do you want it to be in 6 months' time? Climate action. Emission reduction. As you as a business, you as a project. How can you look into that? And one aspect of there, one example I've given here is flaring in the oil and gas industry. Methane reduction. What can we do about making that more efficient? And what our targets are. So it's much like how you manage the performance of a project from a sustainability perspective is the same the way you'd manage any other application. So, but don't forget that you also need to align that with that of your project, that of your clients. And as PMs, we do not want to be trying to boil the ocean here. I've talked about a lot. I've talked about PMPs, sustainability plans. It's not us, incumbent on us. We just need to lead it. We need to harness the strength of our project teams, and that strength comes with diversity in culture, diversity in generation, etc., etc. So for me, that's really what we need to manage, and that's me. So I hope it kind of resonated with the subject matter you're anticipating. I hope I didn't speak too quickly or too eligibly, but there's a lot of information I wanted to get across, and I wanted to leave as much time as we possibly need for some Q&A. So yeah, that's where we're at. So yeah, thank you. Any questions?
Perfect. We have one question in the chat. I will pin it here. It should appear on the screen, Andy, so you can see it. Would you like me to read it, or you will answer?
I can see it, yeah. What's your tangible advice for the case in which you manage a client's project where sustainability is not mentioned within the scope project, typically IT projects? Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, IT projects for sure, but I've, as I mentioned, I've worked on oil and gas projects that have been around these are service agreement contracts. They've been around for 10 or 15 years. And it's not mentioned in there. And these organisations are also that we're working with are also in countries that don't necessarily have the same sustainability. They're not bought into the United Nations sustainability goals. So it's difficult to get over the line. So for me, what I try and do is humanise it. Make it personal. Talk to them about efficient use of vehicles, for example. How can that resonate with them personally? Then bring that across. Because let's face it, if it's not in the contract, you can't force it into the contract. But you've also got to try and share the problem with the client that doesn't necessarily want it to be shared with. Because obviously, if you have it in the contract, it implies there's some scope, it implies there's some cost, it implies there's some program impact. As a result of that might have an impact on what they actually want to deliver. So my example there, I can't give you an IT example, but my example there would be in an oil and gas industry where it's an old legacy contract that's maybe coming up for renewal. That you speak to them about what your organisation is doing and how that can be applied. What I also do is look for stakeholder engagement as well, higher up the tree. So I use my contacts in my organisation and get the executive boards to maybe speak and get alignment from top down. So it might not be a project problem, but if the execs speak together and they agree that we'll work on a particular initiative that links to one of the sustainability goals, then great. That's the way to influence it. So you might not ever get it into the T's and C's, but there's ways of doing it in other ways. Plus the amount of public relations that will come off the back of that. I've been to these oil and gas companies. We've had photo opportunities in the driveway when we've all walked down the local road, doing some waste collection. Clearing canals, reaching out into schools. Taking photographs. Working with young schools, with charities, etc. So the public relations element of that, I think, is another way that you could upsell it to these organisations. I hope that answered the question in a roundabout sort of way.
Yeah, I hope Alicia, we answered the question. I have another question here. I will put it in the chat, so it will appear.
Okay, is sustainable runs to be lead or trend to follow? Oh, that was the question I asked. Is sustainable runs to be lead? Okay, yeah. Yeah. Well, as project managers, for me, I thought I'd answered the question, but for project managers, for me, it's a responsibility. We lead, right? We don't wait to be led. We don't wait to be told. There's your contract. It tells you all about the Z clauses there. Go ahead and implement it. Work with your sustainability committee to have it implemented. Work with all the carbon reducing options that you've got. For me, we're in the forefront of all this. We're the ones that can make it happen. We're the ones that know what the impact of the project it will have on the project if we do it. So the amount of more effort and time and cost that it will take us if we implement and take on board some of the sustainability initiatives. If we don't do it, then can we hand on heart say that our project has been a success at the end if we haven't accommodated it? So for me, we need to lead. But in leading, you also need to empower your team to support you in that lead. Like my last slide said, we can't do it alone, right? We as project managers can't boil the ocean. We need our project team to come up with the ideas. We need the project team to bring in some of their maybe they've got hobbies, right? And they take a photographer and they go out into the environment and they take photographs of things that and maybe we get involved with that. We bring in a local school and we deliver them photography courses or something like something about giving back. But we can't do that alone. I can't come up with all the ideas. It's a bit like when you sit in a risk review meeting and you're the only one that's talking, yet there's 20 people in the room. Yeah, because everyone's a bit risk averse. So you've got to find methods and ways that you're going to encourage them to add value to the risks and opportunities. So for me, we're definitely the leaders here. We shouldn't be led. We should be taking the opportunity to find out all opportunities to embed sustainability as a pulse within our projects. I appreciate that's going to take more effort and time. Might have to build a business case to spend more money to do something like outreach programs or identify a different fuel that you might not have identified in your tender program. But ultimately, yeah, I think it's fully on our shoulders to lead on this as project managers. Yeah.
Perfect. I think we need to wrap up. So thank you so much, Andy, for your presentation. It was really great to hear it. I recommend that if you want to get PDU code, just please complete the survey. The link is pinned out. I will just put it here on the screen also. And please join us for the next sessions, which just shortly start. Basically, share it. No. Yeah, just please join us to the next sessions. And thank you again, Andy.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.